Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the X-Men 97 review, episode 6. To us, our GeekVerse. Welcome to another episode. I am the Clown Prince of Freak Fluid, Travis Snell. I'm joined by...
You absolutely nailed it today. I am the Animheart Caster Domas.
I'm the accuser, Taylor Field.
Yeah, it's just a 3-man cast because we decided this week that Kirkland is going to be done with GeekVerse. The last cast he did on SideQuest, that was it for him, and we'll see him in the next 10 years, and we wish him best in his future endeavors.
It was a good episode, but I don't think it's not a good one to sunset your podcast career on. You know, you need something more grand, I think.
That's usually sometimes happens though, right? You never know when the last one's the last one. It's just like, oh, we're calling it. But
true,
no, we promise. We ever do a last geek when we're 60. That's the thing. Do we do? I'll save it for originals because Dylan has plans. But I got a good I got a good topic in the future about how we tackle last episode. But
I'll
everything you need,
we should do that for sure.
everything you need to know is down below. How to find our audio, our video, all our things. Like I just said, me, Dylan, Kirkland did SideQuest, which is a very fun one. We talk about Star Wars Outlaws, but also just a very fun opening segment of trivia. So check that out. And that's also inspired an originals episode. Later on this week, me and Kirkland are reviewing Rebel Moon. There's always a variety of newscasts or reviews for TV shows, movies, stuff like that. There's this weekly show for X-Men, and yeah, just follow Twitter, Facebook. I'm taking it from you today, but we're going faster today. And the Patreon, you get ad-free episodes, early episodes, exclusive episodes. Also, this weekend I will be posting. I forgot to, but this weekend and funny enough, we were supposed to narrow down when GeekVerse Day was going to be with Kirkland. He's not here. He just has a headache. He will be back, hopefully for Rebel Moon. If not, it's me alone. But I will put out. This weekend, I'm going to put out posts that we're doing for GeekVerse Day. We're doing about 8 to 9 hours of events. One of them is a Golden Geeks for 2012. We're going to make a thread on Patreon, and at any tier, you can throw a movie that you think would be a good one for us to watch. We're going to talk and throw out a couple movies ourselves with each other, but because we're going to go pretty much from May to August. We got May, June, July, pretty much 3 months to prep. So we want kind of the ones you think would cover multiple categories too. So some suggestions would be great. And yeah, get RSS feed. That's the best way to support us if you like what we do. And thank you, because these X-Men episodes, I think it goes Dune and then X-Men 1 and 2 and then X-Men episode 5. Like these last few weeks, you guys have been really showing out on YouTube and the audio feed. So we thank you very much. We're glad you're enjoying it, because the animated stuff has done well for us other than Spider-Verse in the past, but this is it's usually never top tier geek for stuff, so we very much appreciate that. So Mr. Musk, non-spoiler thoughts on Life Death Part 2, a storm-centric episode, but some other stuff going on as well that we weren't expecting. So more juicier than I think we thought or going in.
Yeah, and I think they did that on purpose by not having it like they had Life Death Part 1 / Motendo. I think they tried to hide it by doing that, which I think was a good call for what it is. Unfortunately, this is the first episode that I wasn't super hyped on. I don't think it's a bad episode by any means, but everything so far has been 2 thumbs up. It's been the maximum score I could possibly give it. Maximum hype level, tons of crazy stuff happening. And this one felt, I don't know, a little bit more low-key. You don't get a ton of our characters here, so it's more focused on certain things. And then the 2 or 3 characters that we do focus on, I just didn't think that there was a whole lot of juice to be squeezed out of their storylines. There was some decent moments for sure, but yeah, I don't know. Definitely a little bit lower on the hype train than I have been so far, but I'm very excited for where we've left off. I think the end of the episode is very exciting in terms of setting things up for next episode. So I think next week will be a freaking banger. It'll have so many things going on, so I'm excited for that.
To film.
Yeah, this episode, I kind of agree with you, Dylan. I think it was a little bit more down a notch after last week's and a few of the other episodes. But at the end of the day, I'm not totally disheartened by that, because I feel like after such a crazy high-octane episode that we got last week, it feels relatively okay to kind of just be on a simmery note this time around. Just kind of still coming to terms with everything that happened last week. But we got a few answers, which was kind of nice. And it furthered along certain character stories that we were wondering what was going on. And it introduces a few other things, too, that we were curious about, but we've gotten some answers on now. And if I was to say one thing about that, I think with a certain character, it definitely felt rushed, and that was probably a little bit of a takeaway. Things kind of expedited a little bit for their story, and I would have liked to have seen things kind of slow down a little bit on that front. But overall, I think it was an okay episode. It definitely felt a little bit filler, but it was okay.
Really felt. I don't know if it's. I think I'm higher on this episode than you guys. I think it's tough because I still prefer all the ones where we've had the team together. I think I would put this above Motenda though because that was fun. I do. This feels almost like a. I think there is some development, particularly with two characters, but I feel like this is very much a calm before the storm episode. Legitimately not pun intended, but it feels like it's setting the table for there's one character that they didn't show in the trailers that I'm kind of happy we're dealing. Well, I don't know if I'm mixed on a few things, but none of them are so much negative. I think where I am is I need to see the next four to see where this really goes, right? There's certain pieces where did we need this? I think Storm stuff was great. I was kind of surprised, and I guess this week I was a little more expecting not to be disappointed or like, oh, not as hype, but when we left off last week on such a big cliffhanger, a big moment, and we kind of knew, okay, we're going to table that for a week and come back to it. I guess I went in with lower expectations, and I think the way they went about things was good because it's tough because the storm aspect is I like it, but I almost think it needed more to have like a bigger. I wanted what happened in the story to have a bigger input or impact. And I also still have some questions about that because I feel there was some stuff they set up 2 weeks ago that didn't really line up here, but I think there was some fun moments, some good development. There's some really cool imagery and scenes going on. So I'm very excited. I think the next four, are going to be really, really good, but I still was happy with this episode, and obviously we'll see where at Thumbscale after, but yeah. Anything else non-spoiler?
Mm-mm.
All right, let's get into it. So we'll do we're done non-spoilers, then we're going to spoilers right after, so we'll be right back. And we're back. I have to quickly ask something, and I'm going to be asking Kirkland this next week because I remembered it right when we went off air, and we never talked about it quickly. Dylan, you had seen it before you got to the episode, but what did you think of overall when you started to look at and you found out that Cable was Scott's son? Because we did not talk about that all last week, so I wanted to circle back and talk about that quickly, that reveal. Obviously, like you said you got spoiled, but even when you found that out, what was like, was that like, oh, that's cool, or is this kind of cheesy? Where were you on the Cable's his son?
Yeah, I guess we kind of talked about it from like the Gene perspective a
Yeah.
bit more, but not so much the Scott perspective. Yeah, I guess I want to see a true interaction between them, but I think some of the things that he's saying in that episode, particularly in the beginning, I think of that one, it's interesting to see that stuff, knowing who the character actually is. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm more just like I was given the appetizer for really all of those, like even for Gene, right? You just get that one moment and he gets sucked into the time portal again. So I'm really excited for them to interact in a more meaningful way and have like an actual conversation with each other. But yeah, I don't know if there's much to dive in there for me off the bat. I guess I don't know. We watched all that original series, and I never thought that would be the case. That Cable, I never thought about the logistics. Oh, he's a time traveler. Maybe he's someone's son, and who would it be? I never really would have pegged those two, but I don't know if I would have picked anyone. He doesn't really seem like any other character. He's a pretty distinct guy.
Yeah, he doesn't look like Scott. The only thing they share is he kind of has like the he has like a little bit of eye blast Cable, right? Like with the one eye.
Right.
So that's the only. But he Cable looks like he ate Scott Summers, in my opinion. He's just massive and everything. So
And remember Cable's son Tyler from the original series, who was like even bigger.
yeah,
Ate them all.
big family tree. Yeah. Taylor, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it completely caught me off guard. I was not expecting it whatsoever. So I was thrilled when
You're thrilled.
Madeline. I was thrilled. Yeah, I loved that. I love that genealogy kind of thing. And when Madeline was just like, "Oh, those eyes," and recognized him, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what a revelation!" And just to think in retrospective too, like Cable in Deadpool 2 is the son of Scott Summers, and all this. It's just the way it ties in all these different connections with these characters is really
James
really
Marsden
neat.
and Josh Brolin. You see the familiar connection there.
I do. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Kind of same thing where Josh Brolin looks like he hates James Marsden. Like I'm not picking James Marsden in a fight between those two, but
It's neat how we can see like 4 generations here, where we look at Scott's dad, and we can jump all the way ahead to Cable's son. It's just really crazy to look at this lineage, and I like stuff like that. That's why again I like Star Wars so much, because you have such a long lineage. I didn't think we've ever really gotten to see that in Marvel before. I think we've seen like Tony Stark has his daughter, of course. Tony Stark has his dad. So there's a few generations that they've kind of tapped into, but this is just such a long one that I've got to connect with. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think hopefully you'll get that more with the X-Men. But yeah, no, it's funny because I think I let it slip once in the original series, and then when we got back to cable, all of you are like, "Oh, don't say anything, don't say." I say, "Okay, good, they didn't pick up on it." But yeah, I hope we just at least get one interaction. I think we will, with next week being called Bright Eyes, and then the next 3 episodes being a 3-parter. I think because that might put Scott at ease a little bit too, which might actually get him back with the original Gene. But if he sees that his, sure, there's war and he's a mutant and he's fighting, but like his son still makes it and lives somewhat of a life. It's kind of like, okay, a little bit better. So I think that will kind of ease his pain a little bit. And it's still a weird situation, but it's the only way he could live, right? So it's not like Scott was abandoning him like he was worried about. So I will say if they don't do that though, which I think they have shown that they follow up on these things, I think that will be a disappointment. But I think we'll get one scene at least of them two interacting and something like that, and then who knows? So. Yeah. So yeah, with this one, it actually was revealed to be kind of a two-hander again, which is kind of, it's odd in the way of Life Death. You had part one, the Motendo. I don't think that I don't know what the screen time is between those two episodes, so I think this felt still more like Storm's story. But it's funny that again it did that where instead of a full episode Storm, which I was expecting, it was the half, and that's where I said on the Storm front, where I just wasn't sure. I like the story. I like what we got, but I think almost would have. I don't know if I needed. I don't know what I needed. I don't know if I would have liked it more if it was a full episode. I don't know if it's something that maybe actually didn't need to be as long. Like I'm kind of torn on it where I enjoyed it, but I think also I don't know how much I needed Forge around. Like I know he's there. I was very thrown off at one point that she's talking about how she loves him, which
yes, she dropped the love card.
Yeah, which again I think it's just that clearly it's. So it's not. I think we got our answer that it's not been months. It's been the time when she left. Because if that mutant thing is happening right there, they did say a month right from last week, right?
Cyclops said a month. Has passed since Madeline Pryor pieced out.
So I guess I could assume that from when Storm leaves to then, it's been like a month, give or take. So I guess I just feel like that's where there's a bit more of a journey there, where I feel like it was. I think this is the best way to put it, where it should have been longer, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy we got the Charles stuff out of the way. But at the same time, I still was fine with Charles not being in this season. I still was fine with him coming back next year. So I'm kind of, that's why I said, like, with this episode, still liked overall quite a bit. I still think it had some great moments, but I really need to see how the rest of the season plays out before I can really place how I feel the pacing of it stuff. So I'm kind of confused on a few aspects of it.
Yeah, there's just so many people on the X-Men team. And even though we lost Gambit, there's still, like, as we've talked about, like, Beast hasn't really had anything meaningful to do this season. Wolverine, who's had very little, considering he was, like, really the protagonist, I guess, if you had to pick one from the original
he's about to hit the
series.
jackpot. He's fine. He's getting one scene in an episode, but it's good scenes.
Oh, yeah, they're always good, for sure. But, yeah, it doesn't feel like we needed that extra character back in the show to round out the roster at this point. So I would have been fine with it happening later. But I do think this was a good... I mean, the scene that it happened with, I think, is a good way to do it. And I in hindsight, I wonder, like, how much in the production of the show they had planned to do a life death episode, and then how, like, just iteration, changing, editing things is maybe when they changed it around and realized, we should do this, split up the order this way. Because I think the end of this episode is really great, where both Storm and Xavier are finding out about Genosha and are both coming back. And that wouldn't really make sense if you had done Life Death as one sequence and then done Motendo and Xavier stuff in one episode. It would have been a bit off. So I think it was pretty smart the way they did it. And I guess for that previous one, you have the lighthearted section with Motendo and the more heavy, dramatic, and like more emotional sequence with the Storm stuff. This one, I guess, is kind of all heavy. There's not a lot of fun to be had in this episode. It's a very intense episode. From all angles of it. So, but I think maybe that is, as you mentioned, the calm before the storm is like the perfect wording for it. And I think, the setup that we have at the end of this episode is exciting to have everyone kind of back together and trying to resolve everything, all the fallout from Genosha.
I think it's also, for me, it's just me being greedy. It's almost wish, and I don't think you could do it, but it's like how the previous show, how many it had, like the 12 to 16 episodes. I guess I just wish there was more, because it's not that's a bad thing, because I just know, okay, there's only 4 left. I think I'd like this more if they told us, it's a 15 episode. And I think with the amount of X-Men, you could do that. If you had this writing team, how good they are, like give us a Beast episode. I know we've gotten lots of them, but with this new team and being done so well. But yeah, Taylor, where were you on the kind of the mix up of seeing Charles back? It was a halfer instead of what we kind of expected was just going to be a Storm and Ford centric episode.
I was not expecting to see Charles. I really, really wasn't. So getting him here and just his setup, I felt like something was different with him. And I guess it's just because he's been with the Shi'ar for such a long, extensive period of time, a year now. So
yeah, at least
that
a
makes
year,
sense.
Yeah.
He just felt different. But I feel like his introduction and then rushing to this conclusion that I need to go back to Earth and be with my X-Men. It was rushed. And I didn't like that. I would have liked to have seen him here a little bit longer. The sequence of him, like classes in session with the Shi'ar council and everyone, I thought this was great. And I would have loved to have built upon this a little bit more. But we have him introduced. It's announced that he's going to be the emperor. He's going to marry. And then we have him basically proving his case in point that he deserves this. He's willing to disregard his past, his history to be here. And then we have it coming full circle now where he's, I got to stop this. And I need to no more affair across the stars. I got to go home. It's a lot to unpack. And that's coming from the sense that this is a halfer. This is not one full 25-minute episode focused on that. This is basically like 10 minutes, which is even worse in my opinion. So it would have been nice to have had that maybe expanded upon a little bit more and show a little bit more weight behind Xavier's choice to do this, because I didn't feel like he's in love with her, he's getting married to her, but it was just expedited and I didn't like that.
I'm of two minds with it, where I totally agree with you. It does feel very rushed. It feels we're missing some context, and maybe there is some more fun to be had. And now this whole sequence is already over, and just as you mentioned, like half of an episode. But at the same time, like the galactic politics has kind of been like my least favorite part of this series in general, and getting all these different factions and like Ronan, the accusers in this episode, but it's like a meaningless little sequence.
He got destroyed, man. The Ronan the Accused just in general sucks in Marvel Studios. Yeah, but it's funny, we did say we're like, oh, will anybody have cameos? And I don't think we ever talked about like Marvel villains, and we did get some. We talked about that way back predictions.
It's a cool
episode.
crossover, but it's a pretty meaningless scene in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, unless he comes back and he's the big bad, he's like, you dare. But
yeah,
I think it's stuff. I think the good thing is, though, it's almost like if they could have a full episode of this, they would. But instead of just, we can't do that, so disregard it, and Charles will just show back up. I would take at least 10 to 15 minutes of this versus Charles just says it in a couple sentences and you go, oh, that's where he's been, right? Like I like the sort of Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, showing the people split up and what they've been up to. So overall, I think it was good. Again, I'm surprised that he is coming back, like episode 6, and he's already there. Like I did not think that was going to happen. I thought it would. So again, it still could be a case where he shows up last episode, oh, X-Men, I'm here to help. But I also just don't want him to come in episodes 8 or 9 and just kind of fix a bunch of stuff, like
brings
I think
the whole Shi'ar empire with them, just nuke Sinister.
You never know, but just the way even at some point Deathbird was like, oh, maybe he is, better than we thought, and then eventually at the end, of course, she's like, no, he's scum and Terran sucks, blah 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 blah. But like, I just don't want the answer to the conflict to be Charles saves all. Like I think that's some of the fun is seeing the team with Magneto, the team so splintered, especially now. You could make the case, oh, that's the best time for him to come back. But to me, it's like there's still lots of X-Men members, right? I don't want to be, well, we killed off Gambit just so we can get Xavier more screen time, especially because like we talked about with Jubilee, with stuff with Scott, Jean. We're getting more showcase of characters who didn't. And not that Xavier got like a bunch of showcases, but he was always like main character 3 in like a bunch of those episodes, right? So many storylines were around him. So it's just like, to me, the storyline, that's where I maybe could take more of him at the Shi'ar Empire, because so he goes there and he puts them back together, and then what's he going to do? He's just going to do the same old, unless they're really going to kill him off. So I was surprised by the choice, but again, we'll wait and see. But it was all fine stuff. I'm with Dylan where like the Shi'ar Empire has never been my favorite type of stuff, but I thought the small doses was cool. I think the art style actually looked really good with a lot of their designs, where in the old school they looked really kind of sometimes very cheesy or very just kind of wonky. Deathbird looking fucking awesome. I remember,
sweet.
Yeah, she's one of the characters that I first saw ever for the X-Men There was some comic book that I had at my grandma's, and it was just like a collage of just different characters. You get a little a blurb, and I remember seeing Death Blurb being like, "Whoa!" and just thinking she was a mutant, no idea that she's a space person. So I think maybe you could get a little more, but I think you got most of the juice out of there. I'd like Taylor allude that scene where he put them in the class. I do laugh because I wonder what the hell they were thinking, because they don't know what a class the class. This isn't a classroom to them. They wouldn't have a desk in the AFL. So I'm wondering, like, why did Charles put us in this weird
Yeah,
predicament?
what is chalk? What is a
Yeah.
whiteboard?
What are these
Why is there an
desk
app?
things?
Yeah, why is there an apple in my mouth to keep me quiet? You know, stuff like that. But I thought it was cool to show his power, and I did like when he said he'd forgive it all or forget it all, and then when he said, "Oh, you got to forgive your X-Men," which is just like, you know, the guy should have stopped. He should have just said like, "Oh, forget your planet." Not so specific on the X-Men, but that made him stop. And I thought that was a good little breakup between him and Alondra. Of like, she's like, "Well, you know, you like." We got to be together and we love each other. But he's just saying, well, I've sacrificed so much. You want me to sacrifice this last thing too? It's kind of, you know, how much more can I give? And she goes, oh, well, that's what you have to do to prove you're right for us. And then he's like, well, that's when we must part. So I thought it was a good way to, you know, he still loves her. It wasn't a breakup, wasn't a power struggle. It is just, and that's why I still think she could come back, or some of them could come back, because it ended in the sort of like, well, you know, you're not willing to meet me halfway, and maybe she is at some point. So I thought that, at least for now, even if Alondra never comes back, that works as a reason to be done with this relationship and story, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the execution of it was all good. It just wasn't that exciting. Like, in terms of the relationship drama, if we were to make a tier list, this would be like on the bottom of it. Like, it was like a quick little sequence. But what you were talking about earlier, like, and I didn't really think about this until right now, is I feel like I wish I'm on your side, Travis, in general. Like, I think they pulled the Xavier trigger too soon here, but mostly because I want like more time with Magneto as the leader, and now we're gonna get the dynamic of him coming back. And I think it could be what you were suggesting, Travis, of like this event at Genosha. You said this in the last episode. Could be the thing that turns Magneto back to like full evil guy, and then he brings back his Brotherhood of Mutants and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I want that, but I want that later on. I want that in like midway through season 2 or something. I still want more time of him and the X-Men. So I think that considering that Rogue and him she kind of split up with him, and then there is that moment, it kind of seems like maybe we're set up now for Magneto to go evil again and Xavier to take over. Maybe at least in the interim, we'll have a few episodes of them working together as leaders, and I think that could be fun. And I'm sure the execution of it's all going to be good. I just don't. Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit too soon, but who knows? I mean, maybe when they started making the show, they didn't know if they would get a season 2, or maybe they didn't even know how many episodes they were going to be able to make and this kind of thing. So I can understand wanting to do it all, but I hope we at least get some more of Magneto in his current role, because that's been a lot of fun and something different from the other 5 seasons back in the day.
Yeah, I could see them making it to the finale, but if the finale ends with Magneto and Charles just agreeing to disagree and they go their own ways, it's like, we've seen that so many times now. It's just like the X-Men live action movies, right? By the time we got to Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, like, well, you've done, like, I remember us doing the same thing in the movies. We're like, oh, just put them together for now. Like, we keep doing them breaking up. So I hope not. And that's where it's weird, because to me, I would agree that I thought, okay, they're bringing Charles back because it's going to be a human threat, and Magneto's going to go against everybody. But maybe they'll keep it a secret. But at the end of this episode, they revealed that it wasn't a human threat that did the Genosha thing. It was Sinister.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, it's odd, because like you alluded to the Rogue thing. They've set everything up for Magneto to be bad, but then they've also completely set up the MacGuffin of this was a mutant terrorist attack. So that's where I'm really not sure what kind of. I won't say what the point is, because I trust the show. It's been so good to great so far. I'm just confused on the direction, because it feels like the direction they could be pushing Eric and Charles are in separate. I don't mean like them like going against each other. I just mean like the direction of the two characters together. It's not really making much sense from the way I see it right now, because I wouldn't see if Magneto gets evil at the end of the day. He's just like, I'm sure they don't want him to kill, but he's just killing Sinister, right? Which I'm sure most people are still gonna like. We'll give him a mulligan. Like I like if the breakup is he kills Sinister and let's say beheads him in front of everybody, is that what Charles like? You can't be like, I guess, but he also I don't know. That's where I'm very curious to see what they do with their relationship, because I feel like they're presenting 2 options. And really, we only have time for one, and I just don't want to be rushed and sloppy. I don't want to be like that, where it's just the last 2 minutes, Charles goes, you can't be an X-Men, you're too violent. And he's like, oh, this is the way. And then So I don't know, but I'll trust him because so far so good, great stuff. But I will say, I think we got it confirmed that Gambit's the only one of our main X-Men that died because that's the only person Charles saw in that vision, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's a fair point. Yeah.
yeah. So we didn't see. Not that he knows
Although,
about Madeline Pryder.
Yeah,
but we
would
didn't,
he wouldn't see her really, would he?
No, but maybe he'd see like a Jean and be like, "Oh no, my friend Jean." But at least he didn't say Magneto though. He didn't say Magnus. So
My beautiful storm.
yeah. Is Storm all right? That's why he has to get there. But we didn't say see Magneto, so I think he found a way with Leech to cover
Right.
up his body.
Yeah,
So.
use Leech as the human shield there, the mutant shield.
I just like how it's like a William Dafoe Spider-Man. Like, how would you survive? It's just a cut to him holding up Leech, like as Leech is getting blasted. What about you? I almost called you Eric. Eric Magnus Lencher. Where are you on the whole Charles coming back and what's gonna happen with Magneto and stuff like that?
I think you guys are pretty on point now here by talking about that Magneto's turning bad and Xavier coming back is going to take over the X-Men again, just kind of be the good guy. And they're just going to kind of reset back to the way things were. And I think that's unfortunate. It would have been nice to keep Magneto as this good guy and this being just such an ultimate test. I think it's a mistake to revert so soon. But yeah, it's just him coming back. I think it is too soon. As I said, I wasn't expecting him in this episode. And the whole thing that happened in Genosha, it's interesting because they highlighted it in the news report that this the displacement of mutants are not being accepted back into their home countries, which I thought was very interesting and a very, very shitty thing to do.
Yeah,
But,
so they got nowhere to go now because their home base is
nowhere to go.
gone. So they're literally just making them illegal aliens. How would you feel? Not that he's evil, not Brotherhood of Mutant, because we talked about Genosha. And we talked about, because this is the only path I could see that I could end up enjoying. What if you kind of get like they used to do this, like an X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue. What if you get like a Magneto-led X-Men team and a Charles-led X-Men team? And it's not like they're competing. It's just
Who follows Magneto though over Charles?
But he could go to Genosha to rebuild. You got Madeline Pryor there. I think Scott could go there. Kind of remember we talked about last week where maybe some people go to Genosha to help rebuild. So what if it's like Magneto, Rogue, Scott, Madeline Pryor, and you got some people on Genosha helping out, and then you got people with Xavier helping out, and it's kind of like a, worldwide X-Men. I'm just trying to think of ways that Charles and Xavier can coexist and it's not Magneto turning bad, because I feel like no one wants that right now. I just feel like that's like that to me almost like hurts the season a little bit if it's this route, because if it was humans then I get it, but if it's Sinister there's no reason for him to like get booted. So I'm just trying to think of, is there a way there where maybe there's two operating teams and they're somewhere else? I don't know.
The only way I could really see that is if we get a team that's like Magneto, Madeline Pryor, and then like Mystique, who we're theorizing who the Mystique is in the season. Like Mystique teams up, and then it really just ends up being like Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants or whatever he calls his squad over there. Like I don't really see
Brotherhood of X-Men,
because I don't think Rogue's joining him at this point. Like, I know you just made that point of like people wanting to go there and help rebuild Genosha, but
Scott could, I think, because of the prior thing, right? He may want to be with her. And
that could
what
be
if there?
one. Yeah.
And what if there is a situation where Magneto does kill Sinister, and Xavier's like, "You go too far," and Scott's like, "No, I completely support him," because there is comic precedence of Cyclops at sometimes being a semi-Magneto villain type in the comics. There's a meme called Cyclops was right, and at times he has turned against him a little bit. And last week we did see him lose it on that reporter. So I wonder if there's something there where maybe that could be it, where he does kill Sinister. They don't want him to, but Cyclops is like, "No, I completely support this. I'm going with him. Like, enough of this like goody two shoes." So, like, he took his son, he killed Gambit, like. That could be a fun cliffhanger of the team divided. Everyone's together again, but they don't agree. So,
I'd be into that. The more we talk about it,
but I feel like Xavier coming back would kind of deter that because Scott just worships Xavier, right?
Yeah, so I wonder what you would have to find. What if they do some sort of twist where he knew that was not the real Gene, but Xavier never say anything, and there's a divide. I don't know.
Or what if Cyclops finds out that Xavier has been good to come back for some time and he hasn't done it, and that's why his kid got fucked up and all this stuff happened. Like, I could see Cyclops being pretty strongly against him for making a decision like that.
Because it doesn't sound like he could came back at any time, but it sounded like once he was healthy.
Sounds like for a few months now he's been able to like he's gotten the pass to go ahead.
It sounds like in the span of the time the bad stuff has happened, he could have been back.
Since the events of '97.
Yeah, which granted, I actually liked Alondra's back and forth. I like her calling him handsome and being like she didn't say good lover, but something to the equivalent of that, where she was very complimentary, and I like that she was trying to stress. To me, it didn't feel like it was a power move. It felt like she was just trying to say, like, you do get a chance to have your own life now, even though I think the X-Men is his life. But I did like that as far as, like, yeah, like, be happy. Let's get married. Like, let's do anew, and then, there'll be something there. But he said something like, oh, the only time you're done teaching them when they've learned everything, and people don't look like you could never learn everything. So pretty much just like alluding, like, he's never going to stop being a teacher. But I like that. To me, it wasn't in like a pushy way, maybe until the end. But I like that she was trying to just say, hey, like, we could have something here together, but didn't happen.
A couple other, we talked about it briefly, but I love the visual that he had of seeing Gambit in like the master mold form, turning into a skeleton and then like blasting away the classroom. That was just amazing, and like great use of the astral plane to kind of convey that kind of thing. And then also you shouted out Deathbird, and she's worthy of a shout out. But I also was a big fan of Gladiator in this episode, who's always he's been there in these galactic episodes, but yeah, he had like this kind of dash where he bopped punch people off the bridge. He had that gust that he was doing. He is essentially just Superman. So to him do these Superman kind of things was fun. And I like that I thought it was cool for a bit they were doing this thing where they were alluding to like, ooh, Gladiator's kind of like Magneto in his personality, and then Xavier's Xavier. But then they just said that. He's like, oh, you remind me of Magnus. So it's like, okay, well, now you're a bit too on the nose with it.
Sounds pretty smart for a Terran.
Yeah. But overall, I was glad to see Gladiator back, because he's also a top tier card in Marvel Snap. So I'm a big fan of him.
He just looks cool, like
he does. Yeah. The mohawk, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, he's invincible. Gosh, he's just putting himself in front of all the fight, like the shots coming off of the guards and all that. Oh God, did I just lose my thought?
We're talking about Guardian, Xavier, Lalandra, the breakup, Gambit, Big Gambit,
Big Gambit, Small Gambit, Deathbird,
Master Mold,
It's fucking
Magneto,
gone.
Lalandra.
it'll come back. Yeah, Terrence,
Xavier's love and his handsomeness.
Let's circle back. Is Loki and Sylvie, is that incestuous or not? I don't know. We still haven't decided that, but shout out to Loki's review. Let's take an ad break. Maybe we'll come back to Taylor after this. We'll be right back. And we are back. So yeah, is there anything specifically? So he was gonna be the Emperor. He said no. We got some Alontra relationship stuff. I like the voice actor's the same guy that does Red Skull in the MCU and a bunch of other MCU voices, like Ross McQuoid. I can't McQuoid. I think that's how you say his last name. But
Red Skull in What If, you mean?
No, and Endgame and Infinity War.
Oh, okay.
He replaced Hugo Weaving, right? Yeah, so he does a lot of voices. So I like the voice. I think it sounded a little bit different, but still enough as like the original one. So that was great. And yeah, we already talked about cool to see. I like seeing Ronan, and that's fun. Like to me, even if it's just a little him getting bopped, I hope in season 2 we get that again, where it's like, oh, cool. I know you guys didn't see that. Like, I think we're getting one more Marvel character this season because they released like a half a trailer season. It showed something. It was like, oh, looks like we're getting a couple. So I like that, even if it's small roles. It's like, oh, cool, more Marvel characters, and that gives me hope for seasons 2 and whatnot. But is there anything from the Charles stuff that we hadn't touched upon?
Get all my notes.
Yeah, I'll take a look and see.
Interesting seeing him. Without his chair.
Oh yeah, which they teased at first.
Yeah.
In that first shot of him. I liked his Emperor suit. I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah, which again was cool because I wasn't sure which route they're going, because in the the last 5 years in the Krakoa era of the X-Men, Charles can walk again. So I was like, oh, is this something going on? And he's more evil when he walks again. But no, it was help out there.
Is this, sorry, just to interject, is it the suit, or is it that they completely healed him with their advanced technology?
In the comics or here?
In here.
It's a suit here. Because he
It's a
gets
suit
out of the
here.
suit,
Okay,
and then
that's
she
what I
puts him
thought.
back on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're like
Okay,
talking and they're
okay.
like cuddling and stuff. So yeah, it's just the armor that I think probably.
It's some Fallout power armor going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't get to keep it when the marriage is called
no,
off.
that's
so.
Probably not, no.
She gets the rights. to
Don't even
that.
give him a chair. They just drop him off in the grass.
Good luck, Xavier. A couple lines. Yeah, Deathbird was dropping some great things. She called humans inferior freak fluids. That was great.
Nice.
There's another one going around too. I can't remember what it was. Your weak Milky Way plan or something like that. And then a nice, really good line here by Alondra. They're talking about how he just wants to. He Xavier's trying to slyly like pitch a mission to Earth or something like that, and she's just kind of like, how do you just call them? Like, you don't need to stop there, you don't need to visit, like, just call me. Like, oh no, it's not the same. Like, they're, he's just kind of saying that my children, I like check up on them. And this great line where she just says families are often mimic black holes, they can take you into your drama and not let you go, which she was looking at black hole and she said that, but I thought, oh, that is a good analogy, because it's just like, if he does go back, he can't. She is right in that aspect, right? There's no way Charles was ever going to go drop down to Earth. Even the best of times, and be like, well, I'm going to go back. He would always find a reason to stay. So I like that comparison of the X-Men, good or bad, are a black hole. And if you go there, you're just sucked back in. And obviously he had that vision, but still, I thought it was good. So, and almost got married, but alas, maybe another time. So. So we go over Storm. A couple things. It was not the Demon King. Was just this adversary character who I guess is a comic book character. So you got that going on. Like I said before, Storm said she loved Forge. They constantly were talking about like going on a trip, or that was their plan. They were gonna go like beach it up until they saw the newscast. So I thought that was a little weird. We got more terrorism for Storm in closed spaces, that was back there. So that was some cool imagery. So again, I liked a lot of the story, but I have questions like the Forge stuff. I don't know how much it really worked for me. Again, it sounds weird because like I thought this was good, but I still think maybe if a whole episode maybe would impact it, because even her coming back, like it was good, but I thought it was going to impact me a lot more, and it's like getting the powers back in, it didn't, even though she got the X-Men Evolution suit. Looks very cool.
That scene was so fucking sweet of her getting the powers
Yes.
back and just flying through, creating these tornadoes and all this lightning following her, flying next to these horses, which obviously she was riding in the previous episodes. That was like a fun moment. I mean, visually it was great. Yeah, I'm with you that I don't know if the moment, like in the dramatic sense, was like earned or as earned as I wanted it to be. Like, how did you guys feel about the solution to her? Like, I was kind of confused. It seemed like, okay, so maybe when she got tased, her powers got taken like temporarily, but then they came back at some point, but then she had to believe in herself. Am I missing something there, or is that as simple as it is?
I don't think you're wrong.
Claustrophobia.
Yeah, I think it's like X-Men logic where that happens all the time when they lose their powers, and just over time, Beast was wrong and it comes. But I think it is like a believing in yourself sort of thing. It's kind of clunky.
Yeah, I don't really like. I don't like it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. There's not much more to say.
Yeah, because like I get it. It is like the believing in yourself and the knowing you could do these things, but it just felt like a matter of fact. Like I wonder. It just feels like she was going to get these powers back regardless, and I don't think this was portrayed well. I wonder if it was just better to keep her at the mansion, and then something happens and she could like spark that power up. I just think that's why I said maybe again there's a version of this episode with Storm longer that feels more justified. I don't think it's bad, but it just feels very comic booky of they believed in themselves and it came back, which that is the episode, right? I get it, that's the message, like believe in your inner power. But I don't know, it just it maybe just didn't hit for me, even though I love there's some great dialogues of when she's like, oh, I hear them thunder, but I bring the lightning. And it's like, oh, it's really cool lines and stuff. But
I mean, even, the adversary has good dialogue. And I like that sequence when the creature traps Storm in like a coffin and then like all the faces of the different X-Men are coming
very
up. Like,
cool.
There's some good visuals there. But I totally lost my train of thought. So, Taylor, what do you think?
I feel you. Yeah, I mean, it was convoluted for me, and I thought, okay, she's just trapped in this cave, and then all of a sudden she just exerted lightning and the winds and stuff, and she like blew herself out of the mountain and then came back. Like, it just, I mean, she was just, I don't know, she's flying around with the horses, the Mustangs, the Stallions, and Forge is just like, oh, like just dying down there. Yeah, just kind of rough, but I mean, she's living it. Her new suit looked fire. I definitely really, really liked it. I was digging it. That was cool. But yeah, I would have liked a little bit more context, but they already spent 10 minutes focusing on Xavier and his story, so I guess they had to really expedite things here a little bit too, where she just is in the tunnel. And I liked how Forge set that up as well, where I didn't want you to be alone, and she just points the flashlight and it's just this dark tunnel, and then it goes to her face. And I shouldn't laugh, but it always claustrophobia is not funny, but with Storm, I don't know what it is.
It's
It just
Taylor.
it just makes me laugh, and she's like, oh, like she's freaking out already. But I guess to kind of side tangent here, because you mentioned this demon thing, Travis. I
The
really liked
adversary.
the adversary, right? I loved how Forge whipped out the mystic arts against
Book
it.
of
That was
Ashanti.
Yeah, that he was looking very Doctor Strange-esque.
his
with the
mom was
spell.
a sorceress, right? That was
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to pop up there. So Forge, he's an interesting guy. Lots of stuff to this man, you know, good and bad.
Complex.
Sorcery started some of these like the bad cures and stuff. So
I remember what I was going to say earlier, which is that for the adversary, like some of this idea was interesting where it seemed like the adversary was like a Shadow King and that it was like all in her head
Yeah.
and not real. But then like it also bit Forge and he was actually poisoned and about to die. And so I kind of wish they maybe just didn't do that part of it. And there was more ambiguity there of was this thing ever actually in the physical world or was it just messing with them and in their heads? Because I feel like the bite kind of disproves that and maybe even it getting tangled up by his book magic there too. But if it was more just solely focused on Storm and this kind of mental block that she's had, I think I would have liked that more. But since it's not, it's just like, okay, it's just some weird bird-like creature that's now gone. So yeah,
Yeah.
not one of my top villains from the X-Men series, that's for sure.
anything else specifically? She got her power back. Do you think Forge goes with her to the to help the X-Men out?
I don't really know where else he goes, but we never even we never really knew where he came from in the first
Where
place.
he's from,
Like,
yeah.
is he from the future? Is he from the present? So hopefully if he does peace out, we at least get a explanation as to where he went. But I mean, they're in love, so he's got to go with her, right? I mean,
Well, the theme
Xavier
was
was
the
down
opposite.
to peace, so yeah.
I mean, yeah, well, that's just the X-Men is just peace out on love. That's as we're learning.
That's true. That does happen sometimes.
I'm gonna say no, and I hope not, just because we got enough going on. I hope it's kind of like we'll meet back up. I gotta go do this thing. I helped you get your powers back, and
Gotta go get Bishop and bring Bishop back.
Maybe if
Yeah.
Bishop comes back with Cable, maybe he'll go back with them to the future.
big
think
boy
that's what
Cable. Ready to go. You remember Jean was pregnant? Well, she's a clone, and I'm a
Yeah.
kid, and Storm's like, "Oh my god!" Just so much catch up in that moment. But no, I hope not. I also forgot to mention the opening credits. They removed Magneto and Gambit, but they did put Nightcrawler there. So I think that that
missed that.
means So Gambit we think is dead. Magneto I think we think is alive. We didn't get a ghost of him, but I think that means going forward, probably next season. And they did say new members. I think Nightcrawler's hopefully going to be on the team. If he's in opening credits, then I'm thinking
That could be cool.
he's going to be with. So that's why it's like I don't know if we need Forge. If we got, and I like the Forge, but I prefer Nightcrawler. So I would much rather some more focus on him and stuff. And
Nightcrawler doesn't have much of a Genosha to be the religion master,
Right.
whatever his role was there anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe he needs
And,
a new
like,
job.
Yeah, and Rogue just lost Gambit, so I feel like Nightcrawler is like a Big Brother-esque situation. Could
Yeah,
be
that
there,
could be a fun
you know?
dynamic. Yeah.
Where Forge, it's just like, what? He's just macking with like Storm, you know? She
Someone's
could,
got to.
and that's where I still am gonna keep that theory of the X-Men could split up, and Scott could be like leader B for that team, and leader A could be Storm, because I feel like that's a good role for her. And that's even my whole with Xavier coming back, where I feel like Storm, let's say Magneto's like still missing, Scott's a little messed up. I think Storm could easily like step up to be the leader, you know, and not. And that's one thing I was gonna say too. We're talking about the not that you get over the claustrophobia, but I felt like we had one episode, particular in the original show, that really dealt with that, and maybe didn't get her like over it, but got it so she wouldn't be so scared of it. But I felt like we were kind of like back to season 1, where she was so definitely afraid of it. So that was maybe a little like a meh for me, but I guess the fear doesn't go away. So
I mean, that cave was pretty freaking scary.
it was.
I watched some YouTube documentary recently about some guy who went cave diving and got like stuck in this cave like head first, and it kept me up for nights. It just fucked with my mind. I'm not claustrophobic, but after watching that, I think I gained claustrophobia as a trait. It was terrifying.
Throw an adversary in there too. I mean, that's
Oh my god, yeah, you start to picture weird things like that when you're tripping out in those caves. Ugh.
Did they 127 hours him and just cut his head off to get him out of there?
They tried everything, but this guy was so freaking wedged in there. They'd like break his legs and stuff, and he was also completely. His head was down, so the blood was like rushing to his head, so he was just going crazy. I'll send you a link to this. It's worth watching it.
I will, even though that's
You know,
my nightmare. 'Cause
I know you hate
Storm-
claustrophobia, or you are claustrophobic. right?
No, I'm not claustrophobic. It is so I could be in a small room. I could be with 1,000 people around me. It's if I can't move. I don't know what that is because I
Okay,
don't think
right.
claustrophobic is that. It's if I'm constrained. So the way Storm at one point she was putting like a coffin in this episode, how it was so small, and she's like I can't breathe. That
I think
for
those
me,
are branches on the same tree.
they
I would
are,
say.
yeah. I just feel like it's a different version of, but yeah, that would be because if I could move, like the idea of there's an itch on my back and I can't get it, that would
That's your fear.
that.
Yeah.
But just like but in
Has a
general, like
very itchy back.
yeah, no, but like I'm saying in Dylan's situation where it's like I'm stuck and all of a sudden it's like I cannot get my mind off that. Like, yeah, if I'm constricted, not good. So yeah, send me that doc. I'll unfortunately watch it. But last point we talked about this a little bit. Sinister being revealed as bad guy. You guys happy with that result? If we talk about, is it the humans? Is it Cassandra
But I was
Nova?
speculating, aside from Cassandra Nova, I was speculating Sinister last week because just the green was popping off and everything.
Mhm.
And yeah,
That makes sense. He's the through line villain of the season, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
the theater that scientist guy his DNA was required to activate Master Mold. He was running by the theater, and the title of what was playing was War of the Worlds. I thought was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Very cool.
Yeah, It's tough. It's not. I'm disappointed because Sinister is the main bad guy, but I almost felt it's just kind of like it's almost like now we really hate Sinister. Like I almost felt that plot that they did could have been used to boost up a new villain, like perpetuate that. So my
Yeah.
hope. Well, that's fine because I'll see how it's just. And Sinister's a great villain. They've set him up, but already they were after Sinister, right? I am curious his motivations of why did he feel that he has to do some sort of terrorist attack that looks similar to humans, right? Because it's odd for what Taylor's talking about the news saying, hey, so it's like if we were to give people a new country and then attack it and say, hey, well, you can't go back to your original country, that doesn't make much sense. So I'm waiting to see more details on that because if it's human made, this attack, well, like that doesn't make any sense, right? It's just, I guess it's just the humans just being completely racist. But we saw even a few episodes ago where they say, more than ever, humans are starting to support the mutants. They understand them a bit more. So it's odd for them to do the terrorist attack and then also say, well, you can't come here. I guess it's the idea of they bring danger with them. So I was my hope was that attack was going to happen and we were going to get answers for that maybe next season and they were going to deal with Sinister and that was kind of be left hanging. So when we meet a new villain, it's like, I'm even at the end of the season, you could reveal, I'm the one who did Genosha. It's like, man, but Sinister, it's like, well, our X-Men already hate him. This is just like another, we really hate him now. So I don't know if Sinister needed it. It makes sense for the story. Don't get me wrong, but I guess it's still, I want to know why he did it. Why does that part make sense? Because that part doesn't make sense yet because he's like an experimenter. Why does he have to make it look like the humans or somebody attacked Genosha, right? That I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely on a scale beyond what he typically does. So
Yes.
it's not like him, even though it's as evil as he usually is.
Do you got any theories of why? Obviously, you call it Sinister, but why would Sinister want to attack the mutants? Because he's a pretty low-key, sneaky guy. Like, he's doing stuff like stealing morph, and he's making clones of Jean and swap them. He's not outright doing terrorist attacks. Not that Apocalypse would fit this, but that's more of Apocalypse move of, I'm just going to go in and destroy a place, destroy a city. Sinister's like small but deadly, but here he is just committing acts of genocide.
I think that's what makes it so great, in my opinion. The fact that I was not expecting ultimately Sinister to be capable of doing something like this, and now here he is. Yeah, as you said, he committed this huge genocidal act, and it's such a curveball for this character and this villain. So here we are. What are his true motivations? His plan to get the Summers kid has failed, and now here we are. He's got this other plan in motion. So, was this like a backup? Did he start doing this because he lost the Summers child? Like, at what point did this phase of his plan get initiated, right?
Or do you think it's like an I see some people, God Loves Me 69 and Style Sanders talking about like, do you think he's not working alone? I see Apocalypse. I hope not. I hope it's not a case of Apocalypse has come to Sinister and be like, let's do this again, because I feel like we got multiple times the original show of them being together. It's
Yeah,
kind
and
of like
wasn't the last time too like Apocalypse kind of screwed Sinister over, and so he was like, fuck that guy, and he like went against him.
That was when he
Yeah,
had like
ca-
Magneto and stuff, and like the beginning of Time Place or whatever it was.
Yeah, and same thing. God Loves Me. Yeah, it saves the day for Apocalypse. I really, I don't. I love Apocalypse. It's kind of like the Xavier thing, where I don't need him back in season 1. If that's another big reveal of the big boss at the end of this season's Apocalypse again, I'm getting like, you guys had a great first half, but this back half, like Sinister is enough, and everything's there. So we'll see. I know some people say Bastion, and he was seen there, but I just don't know if they're gonna set it up. But yeah, we'll see. I'm fine if it's just Sinister. I just want what my thing is. I'm fine if it's just Sinister. Just give me a good reason why he did this, and then that's a-okay for me. I don't need a bigger guy there, but
Yeah.
it's always possible that we do know season 2 is confirmed. So maybe there is a setup, right? Of you beat me, but there's a bigger bad guy that really did this. I don't know. So
Right. Yeah.
anything else on this episode? Dylan Muss, where are those thumbs at?
I think I'm going middle. I'm going right in the middle today. Not down, not up, but yeah, a little drop off for sure from where I've been. But I think next week is going to be back to double thumbs up. So I'm okay if we take a little mini lull in the middle-ish of the season.
Mm-hmm. Taylor, thumbs.
I got one little thumb right there for you.
Little guy.
Yeah, I don't want to do. I think I'm like a 1 and like a not a half, but like a 2.5, whatever that be. Like I don't know. It doesn't deserve to me just a 1 because I feel it's stronger than that. But I don't know if it's as strong as a 1.5. So that's where I'm stuck. So it's somewhere in there.
1.25.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I would go the 1.5 because I still, had some enjoyment here. Still really fun episode for the most part, and I did enjoy that they kept the Xavier thing from us. I don't know what it's going to result in, but it was a fun. Oh, okay, we're getting this right now and see what's happening. So. We'll be back next week. Next week will be Bright Eyes, and I think that's going to be a big one because there has to be something Summers related, I imagine, whether it's Cable or Scott. Who knows? Thank you to everyone in the chat that watched. Thank you to everyone that's listening. Let us know. Same thing in the Discord. We do have I don't know if we have an X-Men chat, but still, drop the spoilers and throw out your theories. Yeah, do you think Sinister's working alone? Do you think there's some certain other thing else there? Whatever it is, we'll even send a question we can talk about next episode. But thank you very much for tuning in. When you hear from us next week, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.